welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station. If you're just joining us, we're talking about self-love. Before we went on the break, we were going over some tips.
Distinctions, tips, insight on self-love. And we started off with deciding to start a new relationship with yourself. That was the key distinction. And then to complete your past, and that's through forgiveness. So if you can get through those processes, then, obviously you can jump on the next tips and keep that momentum going. And so then what you want to start thinking about is you want to start practicing to acknowledge yourself more often. After you complete your past, you've forgiven yourself and forgiven other people. I forgot that. After you forgive yourself, if you feel courageous enough and you feel like you want to go to the next level, start writing letters, forgiveness to the other people that have wronged you. They say that freedom comes through the art of forgiving. It's almost like I've let it go. By writing this forgiveness letter or forgiving you, I'm deciding that it's no longer important. It doesn't matter anymore because it's not here, and it's something that hopefully will never exist again. The only one that's bringing it into continued existence is you, because you keep thinking about it and harping on it, and you keep being victimized by it in your mind. But once you decide that it's not here anymore, it's not happening, it's not currently going on right now, surrender it. And the way you surrender it is to forgive that person or those people. And you don't necessarily have to give them the letters. The letter can be for you, but write something out. Start practicing. And if you have a first-time version, maybe a month later you do it again. You have a better version until you're so powerful that you write that letter. Maybe you do 5 or 6 of them, and maybe the 10th time you just go, you know what, I'm over it already. That's what you want to get to, that state where you're like, I'm over it. I have nothing left to forgive. I'm so past it. I'm so beyond it. And I'm so focused on moving forward. It just doesn't do anything for me. That's exactly the place that you want to be at. So do that kind of work. But then move on to practicing acknowledging yourself more often. What do you think that looks like when I say practice acknowledging yourself?
I think it would just mean showing appreciation to myself and the things that I do and who I am.
What would you acknowledge yourself for?
I'd probably acknowledge myself for being compassionate or vulnerable or accepting, all the things that I work really hard to be for not only myself, but for other people.
Now, you'd have to be self-aware to be able to acknowledge yourself, right? You have to actually see yourself in real time of what's going on. Like, hey, you know what, Alex, you're a great friend. Like, you doing that is rare. You sticking around 3 or 4 hours when most people would have left, you're a great friend. Hey, I'm proud of you. A good job. You have to be willing to look at yourself, identify those things, and then acknowledge yourself for that. And if it's something that it's like your thing. Some people have their thing. Like my thing is to, when I have a friend and you're in my inner circle, I'm going to turn myself inside out to have you win, or I'm going to be there for you when you need me and that kind of stuff. Whatever that is, acknowledge yourself for that. And I think that's key. The next thing is to practice noticing and being hyper aware of your self-limiting beliefs. And we've talked about this several times in the past 3 years about, on all different shows is, you have to be aware of the self-limiting beliefs. Those self-limiting beliefs that you have are sabotaging. They're destructive to your way of thinking. They explode and they blow up any possibility for you to create anything extraordinary.
You know what I love about you saying that you have to be aware about it is actually through the years in trainings and workshops, you always have us write down our self-limiting beliefs or things that we don't necessarily love about ourselves or, whatever. This last training about a month ago, you had us do it again. And as I was writing them down, I was almost laughing at myself thinking, wow, this is so dumb. And I remember thinking,
that's a good place to be at.
And I've put so much energy into correcting that or focusing on other things to make myself better that now at this point, those things that I was being affected by when I was 15, they make me laugh. And I'm sure I have new ones that I haven't discovered yet,
right.
But I can't wait to just start knocking them off the list.
But when you get to the point where you realize to yourself, like, this is dumb. Like, why am I doing this? Why is it year after year I'm writing down the same self-limiting beliefs? You want to get to that point so that you could flip a switch inside yourself that goes, why am I doing this to myself? This is pointless. This doesn't help me, doesn't serve me. And then right in that moment, when you realize that and flip that switch, you can now get off it.
Right.
And let it go and surrender it and decide that that limiting belief isn't true and it's not you and it never was and it never will be. And then you get off it. But now it opens up a whole new door of other self-limiting beliefs that you could have been creating on the next version of you that now helps you kind of move on to those, identify those quicker, and learn how to get off those and surrender those faster. And so what you're doing is you keep cleaning out that queue, and catching up. You're doing a lot of catch-up work till you get to the point where you've flushed out all those self-limiting beliefs and you've replaced them with some powerful beliefs called affirmations, which we'll get to a little later on. But I want you to practice noticing and being hyper-aware of your self-limiting beliefs, your negative thoughts about you, and your capacity, meaning what you're capable of. I want you also to be hyper-aware of your doubts, your fears, and more importantly, how all your doubts, fears, and the limited capacity and how it sabotages your results. That's important. If you can really put that into a picture, if you can paint that picture of how all these things has sabotaged your results, in the immediate past, like the last couple years, go back and look at, man, how have this negative thinking, or they call it stinking thinking, how has it gotten in the way of me wanting to move forward with some of my goals? Or how has it really gotten in and affected my relationships where it sabotages them and doesn't let me create anything extraordinary out of that? The next thing is, I want you to practice believing in a world of unlimited possibilities. You have to believe that the world is filled with unlimited possibilities. You have to think that you are one giant, enormous possibility, that you can create anything at any time and you're powerful enough to do that. So you have to see and practice looking at unlimited possibilities. Everything is possible. Anything is possible. All things are possible all the time. You always got to keep thinking like that. If you start noticing that you're doubting and, well, I don't know, and most of all of that is coming from where?
Fear.
And your past. You've already created beliefs that certain things aren't possible. Where? From where? When you were 2 years old and I told you you couldn't do something, you probably would look at me like, are you kidding me? You didn't know certain things were possible because you had no past. You had a year of collecting data about your past, so it didn't matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All of your not thinking things are possible comes from past failures. And this is where your past sabotages your present moment. So the present moment is, here's a possibility for you to create something new, something extraordinary. But what's getting in the way is you don't believe that it's possible. That's right there. You're chopping your toes off. Imagine trying to, engage in a race, a 10-mile race. And then before you take off, they're like, oh, wait a minute. We're just going to chop your toes off real quick. How likely are you going to be successful in completing that race?
Yeah, not very.
Yeah, so that's what's happening here. When you have a limited thinking about what's possible, you already lost before you even take off. And so I need you to practice believing in a world of unlimited possibilities, and then believing that those possibilities are available to you. I think some people live in the illusion that no, only certain people get those kinds of possibilities. Only they get those opportunities. No, we all have opportunities and possibilities available to us. I want to share this with you. The other day, I was on Facebook, and someone shared a picture of a man that was, I guess, walking into the gym, and in the back of his shirt, it says something like, "Don't be jealous. We all have the same 24 hours." And it was, I started laughing because it's true. It's like, you have the same 24 hours that I have to be able to go out and create whatever you want. Don't be jealous because I seized the moment and realized that those possibilities were available to me, and so I took advantage of those. You have the same ability, the same power, the same choice, the same possibility to jump into and then manifest whatever it is that you desire the same way that I do, the same 24 hours. You know what I mean? You don't wake up and only get 4 hours and have to go back to sleep, and I get 24. We're in the same world, same, everything is available to us. We all get it equally. The only difference is that you've limited yourself. You either don't think you're worthy enough or don't have the capability, or you create these doubts and all this. You have all this dysfunction going on when the next person to your left and to your right doesn't have that. And so that's why they're out there creating extraordinary things for themselves. But you have those possibilities available to you just like the next person. And then I want you to practice realizing that you have what it takes within you to be able to cash in those possibilities. The trick is you discovering what that is within you and then starting that journey to try to figure out what is essential about me, what is powerful about me. Start living in the question, start questioning and digging deep to find out what's so amazing about you. Go and search for that.
I love what you're saying. Everything you're saying is so great, and it sounds so easy.
It is easy.
It is easy. However, there are going to be a lot of challenging steps along the way, especially the last couple of things that you were saying about, just not only accepting, but understanding that you have the same resources available and you can virtually make anything
Well, first
possible.
of all, I never said anything about having the same resources. Everyone has different resources.
Well,
what I said was you have the same 24 hours that I have to be able to figure out how to reinvent yourself inside of a world of unlimited possibilities. Possibilities are there for you. The same amount I have, you have.
But you do have...
They're infinite.
But you do have the opportunity to get the same resources as somebody else. You just have to figure out how to get
That's
it.
right. I want you... Please don't mistake or misinterpret, because I never used the word resources. That's how you interpret that.
Right.
What I'm saying is that we all have the same opportunities and possibilities to jump in and create for ourselves. And that's where the personal power comes from, is that I have given myself permission, or I given myself the audacity. Like, how dare you decide that you're just going to take all these opportunities and jump into a world of unlimited possibilities and just create whatever you want. I can't believe that you did that. How dare you do that? And so it's just a matter of, give yourself permission to say, hey, look, they're available for all of us. They're like fruits for all of us to enjoy. Let's dive in there and get some of that. The difference is that most people won't give themselves that permission because they still carry their past with them. And they still carry their fears and their doubts and all the insecurities that get in the way from one person to the next to say, I don't know, the last time I did that. And they got all these excuses and all these worries and all these things that limit them from diving into that unlimited world of possibilities and manifesting and creating something great for themselves.
Yeah, I guess I 100% see that, 100% agree with that. But I also can see and understand how just getting to that place at all, realizing that, like you said, you have the same opportunities and possibilities and all that jump from realizing it is what the most challenging part is going to be. So it is easy if you can just do it, but if you can't just do it.
I used the wrong word, so let me correct myself. Let's change the word from easy to it's simple.
Okay.
Because simple implies that it's simple if you realize that it's simple and you can jump in there, and it still might take some effort and hard work to get in there and create it, but the process is simple. It may not necessarily be easy. There might be some hard work, some challenges to overcome. So I want to correct myself. It's not easy, it's simple. But sometimes the most simplest things we make it more confusing.
And we make it more challenging.
That's right. And more difficult. So it's simple, but it might not be easy because you need to do some work on yourself. Which goes back to the self-awareness and that journey to decide, I want this. If this is the path for me to get through and have those breakthroughs, I want to embark on that. And if I'm 30, I'm 10 years behind. If I'm 40, I'm 20 years behind. But the cool thing about it is it's never too late. Right now, your spirit, if you're listening to these words, and some of you got your knees shaking and you feel like we are talking to you, we are. We're only our voice is being, thrown out there in the airways, but as you're listening, I don't care where you're at, what time this is, and what part of the world you're at, but if you're listening to this and it sounds like I'm speaking to you, I am. You do have the ability to create this. The problem is that it's going to take for you to have the courage to trust and dive in and start that journey of self-awareness and personal development so you can get to that stage.
Right. Before we finish up, I kind of want to go over another topic that came up in the workshop.
Let's do it.
So one woman asked, how am I supposed to figure out who I am? And you kind of responded with something along the lines with, almost you're never going to figure out who you are because you're constantly going to be changing, improving yourself, working on yourself, and you're never really going to figure it out. But another thing that you said was, I cannot know who I am by myself. Relationships are great feedback for me. And I really, really, really love that because I like to think, well, before you had said this, before I reflected on this statement, I like to think that I figure out who I am and I know who I am, and I don't need anybody else to tell me who I am. But I do, and not in a negative way. I need people to give me feedback, to tell me who I'm being in order to be better, or in order to not necessarily not make mistakes, but in order
to be more effective.
Exactly.
Now, imagine being on an island all by yourself, and you're 5 or 6 years old, and you're taking care of yourself, and you're growing up, and you're 7 and you're 8, and you have nobody to have a relationship with. How are you going to know who you are without having a relationship? Relationships are gifts for us to figure out who I am. In order for you to know yourself, to be a caring person, you have to have somebody in front of you to care for. In order for you to know yourself as a giving person, you have to have people in your life for you to give things and give of yourself to them. That's how you go, oh, I'm a giving person. In order for you to know yourself as a compassionate person, there has to be people in your life that are suffering, so that you can realize, oh man, that hurts me to see them go through that. So your relationships are tools for you to figure out who you are. They're blessings, they're gifts. And a lot of us are getting disheartened and disempowered because of the relationships and deciding, oh, I don't want to have relationships because they're too hard. And so then I'm just going to buy myself a dog, and I'm just going to live the next 20, 30 years, me and my dog. And, I'm going to exclude myself from interpersonal relationships because that's too difficult. Those relationships is supposed to teach you a lesson about you. Don't use it's hard to just give up. Use that it's challenging for you to figure out how to overcome them and work on yourself so that you're not showing up the way that they keep giving you that feedback. I'm glad that you shared that insight. That was powerful. It taught me some things, too, about my relationships.
Sounds great. We'll get more to it after the break. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we're discussing self-love, and we're going to go ahead and continue before we finish up with a few more tips.
Yeah, I had a few more that I apologize for not getting those in the last segment, but the next thing I want to get to is practice the constant creation of affirmations and consistently repeat them to yourself. In case you don't know what an affirmation is, it's a positive statement that you're going to make to yourself every day, all day long, to contradict the self-limiting beliefs. So if you have a self-limiting beliefs that you can't do it or you're not good enough, then your affirmation is of course I can do it. I have the ability, I have the power, I'm a great man, I love, I care, and I am worth it. So you're just going to have these powerful statements you're going to keep making to yourself, and what ends up happening is you start to believe those. When you don't have affirmations, those self-limiting beliefs become those affirmations. So make a conscious effort to create those. The next thing is find yourself a life coach, a mentor, somebody that you trust that has a good head on their shoulders, can give you great feedback on the outside, and then surround yourself with those positive people that believe in you, love you, and see your greatness. And I would hang out around those people. My biggest breakthrough came for me when I had a coach, a mentor of mine, that would always speak into my greatness, and I was mesmerized by it. I was like, how do you see that greatness in me? I want to see that. That's what you need to do, is find somebody like that believes in you and speaks into that greatness, doesn't have your past, doesn't have your insecurities or your doubts. And then practice doing this, doing the things that you love to do. Most importantly, practice meditation, prayer, asking God, the universe, whatever your higher power is, to help you being more loving and accepting of yourself. And then practice gratitude. You put all those in, get masterful in all those things, you will be more self-loving and you'll be a powerful human being.
Sounds great. We're going to go over a quick recap of all the things that we talked about.
So let's go through it quick. We'll run out of time. Loving yourself.
Filters and perceptions.
Hardest part is showing up and keep showing up.
Starting a relationship with yourself.
Practice self-awareness.
Practice self-reflection.
Start to notice everything about you.
Improving your inner voice.
Forgiving yourself.
Practice accepting everything about you.
Approving of all of your insecurities.
Acknowledging yourself more often.
Be aware of your self-doubts and your fears.
Be aware of self-limiting beliefs.
We talked about unlimited possibilities.
We talked about questioning yourself.
You have the same 24 hours to work in a day that I have.
And figuring out who I am.
And relationships are gifts to find out who we really are. And then next week, we're going to be talking about parenting styles. And that's going to be a cool show because I think that the average parent hasn't realized that there are different styles. And when's the right time to adapt the second style and start learning how to evolve inside of that style. So I'm going to break down the two different styles. Then I'm going to try to ask you to be in the question and figure out which parenting style are you in and have you shifted or not. And really, it's going to be a great discussion because we're going to open up that possibility.
I think it'll be really fun to figure out which one you identify with and which one you want to be. So maybe you identify with one, but you really want to be the other one.
So you're going to actually have to come back and listen to what two personality styles those are and then do maybe a little self-assessment and maybe a test to get to see where you are and how much growth you need to do. And some of you might not even realize that there is a second personality style. You know, most parents, I think they just grow up doing the best they can. And when you kind of default back to just doing the best I can, basically what you're saying is I'm just going to be this one parenting style the whole way through and expecting you to create extraordinary results with the one parenting style.
Or what's that one saying? It's insanity to do the same thing expecting different results.
Yeah, keep doing the same things over and over again expecting different results.
Right. So when parents say, "Oh, why is Jimmy still doing this?" It's kind of, why are you still doing this?
Yeah, you're still the same parent that he was when he was 2 years old. You're still showing up the same way.
All right. If you missed today's topic or you want to hear it again, you can always find it on our podcast online. Thank you so much for joining us today on My Conscious Dad with me, Jasmine Urbina.
I love you, Jasmine.
I love you too. And my dad, Alex Urbina, right here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.